I was just sent another story of a teacher having an inappropriate relationship with a student. I looked into it, I found the arrest affidavit. I'm going to read it to you because that appears to be my lot in life now. This is Kirsten Rose. She is a math teacher, and she was just accused of having a relationship with her student after the student's parents realized that he was not acting right. He wasn't coming home from work. He was like coming home late. And then they tracked his location via Instagram and found that he was at this house that they didn't recognize. And they connected the dots that this house belonged to his teacher. Let's start from the beginning. Back on March 18th of 2026, this detective who's writing this says, I was notified of an allegation of a sexual act that occurred between a student at Redacted, which turns out to be the math teacher, Kirsten Rose, 37 years old. So the detective goes out and meets with JJ to conduct a fact-finding interview, and JJ is kind of hesitant to reveal any information because he doesn't want to get Kirsten in trouble. He admits that. During the initial stage of the investigation, this detective was informed by the school principal that he had made contact with JJ and that she had confirmed that JJ was frequenting an address in the Cape Canaveral Brevard County area. It's important to note that it says made contact with JJ redacted. It might say JJ's mom or JJ's dad or something like that, but the principal made contact with someone close to JJ to confirm this information. JJ's parents became concerned because on February 13th, he had gotten off of work at like 11:30 at night, but wasn't home at like 2:30 in the morning. And so they told him, he needs to come home. Then they asked where he was, and he said he was at his girlfriend's house, that his girlfriend was named Kirsten, but that he didn't want to introduce her to his parents because she was too shy. But they could see his location on the Life 360 app. And so they were like, who lives at this house? They were starting to make these connections. So they sent a screenshot of the location on the Life 360 app to the police. And they are the ones who I think were able to figure out who lived at that address. It goes on to say that this detective met with the administration who confirmed that 37-year-old Kirsten Rose, who is currently JJ's math teacher, drives a reddish-orange Dodge Challenger, the same vehicle that he was seen getting into the night that he was super late after work. She had picked him up from work. And that she lived at this address that also correlated with the Life 360 information. The detective was also informed by JJ's redacted that he later disclosed that he was redacted with his teacher and had been at her residence several times. And it should also be noted that JJ is currently a teacher's aide in Miss Rose's math class. With this information, the detective responded back to Redacted, where he again made contact with JJ. And in this sworn audio recorded statement, he disclosed that on or around November 2025, he and his math teacher, Miss Kirsten Rose, became friends on a social media app called Instagram. And they started sending messages back and forth. Sometime between February 1st and March 1st, JJ responded to her residence located at, and then it says the address. I don't think you need to know that. But that is where he admits the two engaged in sexual activities approximately 27 times. And he described that the two engaged in various forms of that. JJ advised that they both knew what they were doing was wrong and decided to cut things off approximately 3 weeks prior to March 19th of this year. JJ advised that they both had feelings for each other and he didn't want to get her in trouble, and that was the end of his statement. Then he made contact with this detective, made contact with Miss Rose, who read her Miranda rights, and she did not want to speak to the detective regarding the allegations. However, he was able to seize her cell phone. So the detective goes through her Instagram account, which is rose.enchantée, and he realizes that both of them followed each other on Instagram and that they were using the vanishing mode feature on Instagram, which operates similar to Snapchat, where your messages, photos, videos, whatever, vanish after a certain period of time or after they're opened. So let that be a warning to you parents that is a feature of Instagram. However, there was still some content that was able to be captured, and it was like summarizing these phone calls that they were making to each other. So the video calls made to JJ from Miss Rose's Instagram account listed the duration of the calls for approximately 4 hours each time she called JJ. I mean, they were on the phone for like up to 5.5 hours at a time. On March 6th, she sent this poem from Confession to the Moon that says, quote, "If only you knew how much I wished for someone like you by my side, you'd understand why I'm so afraid of losing you." In another message, she wrote, quote, "Together we will create a home filled with flowers, kindness, mega cozy pillows, rest, good sex, good sleep, dancing, wonderful dancing. Wow, wrote that twice. Twice, must really want to move with you. Books, space to be us, space to be you, space to be me, and space to love, 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 love." In another message she sent him, it was an image of two bears cuddling in bed inside of a heart-shaped picture, something probably like what Britney Spears would post. She's always posting like weird stuff. And it says, quote, "In my heart, we are sleeping in and our plans are breakfast." Unquote. In another message, she wrote, "The best version of Twister when he invites you over to his house for a game night." And then there's an image of a bed with color coordinated circles. Then on March 30th of this year, the detective received notification from an officer that one of her friends, Kirsten's friends, was visiting her in Brevard County and noticed that Miss Rose was acting inappropriately with JJ, and this friend wanted to reveal what she witnessed. This friend, her name is Heather, I'm not going to say her last name, but she stated that Miss Rose told her about JJ on January 17th of 2026 when they went to Disney World in Orlando. At the time, she explained that he was redacted. She thought it was really weird because she was calling him her bestie and stating that they had so much in common and that she loved him so much. Miss Rose told Heather that she was redacted. She stated Miss Rose proceeded to show her pictures of JJ on her phone. On February 13th, Miss Rose and Heather were supposed to spend the weekend together. Heather drove down from Jacksonville, Florida to Cape Canaveral as the plan was for her to spend the weekend at Kirsten's apartment. During conversations, Kirsten told her that she wanted her to meet JJ. And Kirsten told Heather that JJ works at the redacted and she wanted to go to his employment before they went out for the night. So Kirsten and Heather went to this place to meet JJ, and she stated while they were at this place, Kirsten and JJ appeared a little more than what she was led to believe. She stated Miss Rose was wearing a small crop top shirt and had her breast all over the counter. She explained that Kirsten was very flirty with JJ and it made Heather very uncomfortable. So then Kirsten and Heather go to this bar called the Alibi, and later that night, JJ shows up at Alibi, and at some point in the night, Kirsten tells JJ to come back to her apartment, and Heather is not happy about this, and she says she was disgusted and uncomfortable, and while in Kirsten's apartment, Kirsten and JJ began getting more sexual with each other, and Heather advised that she was sitting at the dining room table, and Kirsten was sitting at the dining room table across from her, while JJ was standing behind her. She advised that JJ had his arms around Kirsten and he was groping her breasts over her clothing. She advised Kirsten had on a crop top shirt, which was only covering her breast. JJ continued running his hand over her body and into her pants, over her area down there, and that they kept making out. And as they were making out, Kirsten asked JJ to stay the night, at which point Heather became really upset. At some point that night, JJ gets a phone call and Heather can hear the person on the other end saying, "Where are you?" screaming. It's 2:00 in the morning. He ends up taking an Uber home. The night's over. Kirsten has since been charged with lewdness, indecent exposure offenses against students by authority figures, and then 5 counts of unlawful sexual activity with certain minors. And I don't know if you've seen that show, A Teacher on Hulu, but this very much feels similar to that, where she was having this relationship with her student and bringing her friend around as if she expects her friend to validate it, I guess. 37 years old. You're 37 years old. This kid. At no point in this affidavit does it say how old the student is, but we know he's a minor, so the age doesn't really matter because regardless, it's wrong. But kudos to this friend for coming forward and calling out her friend on her disgusting, vile behavior.